Welcome to Coffee and a Weather Map with Jeff. This is the 11th of July, 2025. I'm going to try and do this as fast as possible. We are in the process of moving our RV to another place downstate as we get ready to get on our boat. So here we go. All right, looking at the analysis, specifically the surface analysis, we still have that pesky front, as I have kind of termed it. Try to get as much of the map in here. I know my software tends to cut it off on the south end of things. But anyways, low that's up in New England with those fronts around it, it's been just kind of hanging on for dear life along that area, across the lower Great Lakes into the Mississippi Valley, the central or the mid-Mississippi Valley, almost to the upper part of it, across Iowa, into Nebraska, and over into Wyoming. And southern fronts have a tendency to stall, especially when you get a good setup like what we have right now, which is that subtropical high / Bermuda high, which you see on the map. The Bermuda high is out over the Atlantic Ocean. The subtropical high is also in the southeastern United States and even the Gulf of Mexico. And that is just trying to push as much warm, moist air into the central part of the US. And that just tends to stall those fronts. There is a second system, which we noted yesterday, which was up in Canada, and has been slowly moving across North Dakota and into the South Dakota now as well, and it tails off into Idaho. There's also an area of low pressure, and I will zoom in on that here real quick. You can kind of see the low and those little dotted lines across it, of low pressure that's down in the East Coast and the southeastern states. There's roughly an area of low pressure there in the Delmarva Peninsula that then stretches into western North Carolina and then down into Georgia. And these will be the focus, continue to be the focus of where the weather is going to be the issue here over the next couple of days still. We'll see if these systems will move some. Part of the reason is the jet stream itself is just still in a kind of zonal flow pattern. As we take a look here at the upper air, it's gone back to that west-east flow for the most part. I mean, there are some ripples there in it, of waves of instability. Otherwise, that area of low pressure that's there in Nebraska and Iowa was part of a shortwave that came through, and it's been enhanced by the thunderstorms that it has caused over the last 24 hours. And then there's also that more significant little push there going into North Dakota that will have some issues. Although right now there's not a whole lot expected with it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that most of the thunderstorm activity is taking most of the energy away that it normally would have had to work with in the lower levels down there to the southeast of it. Okay, and just to take a look at the satellite, this is with the 500 millibar pattern on it. And we'll get that all loaded up here again. So you can see it's not quite the Terminator line that you would see on a visible satellite, but what it is where the transition from the nighttime infrared to the true color daytime cloud cover goes into effect there. Just to kind of see, you could look at where the low is there, coming out of Nebraska, going into northern Iowa. That's expected to continue to kind of slide along. You see that there are also some showers and thunderstorms up there in the preceding that trough of low pressure that's coming down out of Canada and trying to move things along as well. Although those two tend to split a bit, and so I wouldn't expect a whole lot going on past that. Like I said, most of the energy is going to be along the front where all the thunderstorms are down there in Iowa. And to kind of take a look at that, you can kind of see the idea with the National Weather Service offices on the watch, warning, and advisory map. So there's fog, just to kind of go from east to west with what's going on. They have fog potential in a lot of areas. And we'll just tap on the Blacksburg office. They have a dense fog advisory, probably also have a special weather statement out for patchy dense fog. So that's still an issue out there in the east, as well as up in, the Mount Holly office, which is New Jersey and the Philadelphia area. There's also, at least looking down with what Wakefield has in the Delmarva Peninsula, so there's a hazardous weather. Oh, it's a hazardous weather outlook that's going on, which we can talk about here in a little bit. Otherwise, fog is in the east. That's the Blacksburg office, and also in eastern Kentucky at the Jackson, Kentucky office. We have a few flood warnings still in effect, just because of all the rain that they've gotten in central North Carolina, as well as then also over in along the Mississippi River, and then in northeastern Nebraska, there are some currently from the complex of thunderstorms that moved out of there. But now you see that dark green area, and that's all flash flood watch areas or flood watch areas that stretch out along that front. And we'll talk about the WPC and SPC a little bit more here in just a bit. You notice that sort of gray area up there to the north in northwestern Minnesota. There are Canadian fires that are still going on. So they've got an air quality alert going on there because of the smoke that's coming down out of Canada and will be affecting the area there. There's also another one here in western Colorado, and that's because in there it's not Canadian fires. There's actually wildfires around in the region that the Grand Junction office has put out. Otherwise, the rest of the West is pretty much heat advisories, like in New Mexico, excessive heat warning. There's one up there in northern Arizona, as well as northern California and southern Oregon, and then heat advisories surround that area as well. Okay, that's kind of getting caught up on the watch weather advisory thing. As we go into the SPC and WPC section here for the day, right along that front that we talked about, and I'll just kind of show you the front there that goes through Iowa, Illinois, and into Indiana. On the SPC, we have anything basically along and north of that front. We're expecting a slight risk. That's a level 2 of severe weather. We also have a marginal risk with the other front that stretches from northern Minnesota down into Nebraska. And that's where the two areas kind of join. And we have an area all along the front range down into a little bit of eastern New Mexico and West Texas and the Panhandle, and down into West Texas along the Rio Grande. And if we take a look at the day one excessive rain, that's pretty much where we're seeing it. Although there is another slight risk there in northeastern Wyoming or southeastern Wyoming and northeastern Colorado and portions of Nebraska and Kansas. And that's just along all those fronts, and where everything, the low pressure just kind of is hanging out, which means more thunderstorms over top of areas that have already gotten wet. So it's going to be an issue for the day today. Like I said, along that front in Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, almost into southwest lower Michigan, where the same slight risk for severe weather is. And then along the East Coast, which we didn't see anything, at least as far as a marginal out there. Let's take a look at the SPC graphic. Nope, just general thunderstorms. But because it is so wet out there in the east and in the southern states, due to that high pressure just pumping in more moisture and heat, we have marginal risks of getting excessive heavy rain over those areas as well. All right, day 2. And day 2. Okay, for SPC, as that system that's moving out of moving across the Dakotas into the boundary waters of Minnesota, by tomorrow it's expected to start affecting the upper Great Lakes and specifically the eastern half of Michigan. I know when I worked at the Gaylord office that it was northeast lower was more prone to severe weather than we get over in northwest lower, and that this is the case again today. Part of that's because of the heat. It takes a little bit of time to get away from the stabilizing influences of Lake Michigan, and Lake Michigan has not warmed up enough yet to really help in keeping thunderstorms alive across the lake most of the time and getting into northwest lower. So that's why the western part of the area is in a marginal, with the eastern part in a slight risk. And of course, all those fronts should start to push a little bit more, but they will get hung up at some point. And they go all the way down into Missouri and then down into West Texas. This time, the severe thunderstorm potential is marginal right along I-25 in New Mexico, all the way up into southern Colorado. And if we take a look at the day 2 outlook here, the risks for heavier rain are, while we do have them along that front there in the northern part of it, that's not as expected. For one thing, it's not as wet in some of those regions. And I could tell you that in Michigan, there's enough sandy soil across the state that it's only marginal to get excessive heavy rain, at least at this point, to exceed the flash flood guidance. Things should be winding down on the East Coast, where there's just general thunderstorms, as I was talking about before. But the place to watch out for is the place where they've been having some of that rain, the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma. These places are prone to flash flooding as well. As we saw a little bit earlier this week, eastern New Mexico's had that. Ruidoso had a pretty sizable flood at that point, and all the way down into West Texas, just east of El Paso. So there's that big slight area to watch out for. And sometimes people take the marginal slight risks not nearly as heavily how do I say it? They don't take them as seriously as they probably should. It's just to keep an eye out. It's not like nothing's going to happen. We're just going to get thunderstorms. But anytime that we see that all this moisture that's been piling up in these areas due to the weather pattern, that's just what could happen. All right. Not much to talk about in the tropics. We are now on still continuing with the next 7 days of nothing expected. Like I said, the last 2 days, we have had that out in the further on in the 8 to 14 day outlook that CPC puts out. There is the possibility of some homegrown, I've seen, as they call it, along a front, either in the Gulf or now in the southeastern Atlantic. Some people have been pointing that out. So beware that could be a possibility as well. All right. And to quickly go on here into the local forecasts, look at northern Michigan. So today they have showers and thunderstorms south of M32, which is a major divider, north-south divider, at least that we used in the Gaylord office. It runs roughly from along the 45th parallel, which basically is Alpena to Gaylord, and then, well, it kind of moves up towards Petoskey a little bit. You can just draw a line and go all the way across the rest of the way. Highs will be 75 to 84 across there. And then tonight, additional showers and thunderstorms move in from the southwest. For Saturday, however, we do have that risk of severe thunderstorms. And the main area that they're concerned with is the area that stretches from Alpena to roughly Mayo and then down towards Big Rapids and eastward, so the eastern part of the state. As I said, that tended to be our most prone area of severe weather when I was working at this office. So you need to watch things carefully. The afternoon is when they're expecting the redevelopment for severe thunderstorms possible. And their beach outlook, you just kind of look at that. We do have thunderstorms that, although the risk for the swim risk or the beach hazards there look to be low, at least at this point over the weekend. In South Texas, today, pretty seasonal, which we'll look at with the weekend outlook that they've put on here, where we've got temperatures 88 in the east, or 88, upper 80s in the east along the beaches, and then it gradually goes up through the 90s to near 100 out in the brush country and the Rio Grande Plains. The weekend outlook, continued seasonal, east, 90s pretty much, east to west. Heat indices, don't underestimate the heat index. Anytime it's over 100, you need to make sure that you are hydrated. It gets pretty hot out there. Over 105 is an issue, which can be require a heat advisory, I believe, if I remember right. And 110, we're bordering up on the excessive heat. So morning lows are going to be in the upper 70s. Rain chances each day. Friday, 15 to 20, so low. It's going to be in the eastern part on Saturday with 20 to 40%, so low to medium chances. And then low chances again in the northeast, up by the Victoria Crossroads, probably on Sunday. And with that, I want to say thanks for listening and take care. Have a safe day.